Happy Halloween. Ready for round two? Really? Because I don't think that you really are. Look, as silly as Sonic.exe was, it can at the very least be enjoyable, and for better or worse, it does have its place in creepypasta history. Sonic.exe Round 2 does not have either of those distinctions. I didn't expect it to be good, but how awful this story is goes beyond my wildest nightmares. Don't let the fact that this is on the Troll Pasta Wiki fool you. This has the tag of pasta that is trying to be good but sucks enough to be a troll, which is made up mostly of pastas that were deleted from the Creepypasta Wiki for sucking so much. This was absolutely meant to be taken seriously. Also, it was written by the original author, JC the Hyena, and the writing styles of the two stories are pretty much identical. I think he wrote this as a response to all the people who didn't like the first story, as a way of saying, "You think that that was bad? You don't even know how bad it could be." There is so much that is so deeply wrong with this pasta that this review is going to seem less like an essay and more like just this wall of text. I guess that fits since this pasta doesn't have any structure either. I know I'm stalling, so I should get this over with. This is Sonic.exe Round 2. You know, I'm not even really sure where to start, but a good place would be the question, why does this exist? I mean that from a narrative standpoint. Why do we have to expand on Sonic.exe? Why does this story need to be continued? The original story was so simple. So simple, in fact, that there had to be repetition and padding to get it to 4,000 words. The original pasta had the standard plot of a lot of short horror stories. The narrator finds something, weird things happen, and the narrator dies. Or at least I think he dies. The ending of the first story was such a piece of crap anyway, who knows what happened in it. Anyway, there's no point whatsoever on expanding on this. It would be like making a sequel to that Demon Attack video on YouTube. There's no reason to. Also, creepypastas, at least the good ones, play on the reader not knowing things about the world that is created in the story. That's also another reason why the first one wasn't very good. It left almost nothing to the imagination. Okay, I need to quit tangentially hating on the first story. That's neither here nor there at this point. Anyway, a sequel where more is explained takes away from the mystery, and therefore takes away from the horror. But even if there really was somebody who asked JC the Hyena to expand on the mythos, and if that person exists, they should be ashamed of themselves for what they have wrought upon humanity. They would be disappointed by this creepypasta too. The story adds virtually nothing to the Sonic.exe mythology. It's a rehash, and I don't mean Paranormal Activity 2 Saw 2 rehash. I mean Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3 level rehash. The story is about a policeman investigating a series of murders caused by Sonic.exe, told in the form of a diary. The murders are all exactly like the one that happened to Tom, with Tom's even being mentioned, so nothing new there. The story tries to tell us things about Sonic.exe, but they're almost all things that were either stated or, in rare cases, implied in the original. It says, Sonic.exe is a demon masquerading as Sonic the Hedgehog. We knew that. Sonic.exe has its own dimension where it tortures souls for all of eternity. We knew that too. Sonic.exe uses the disc as a gateway between his world and ours. We could have guessed that. And even the thing that this story says that does add to mythology, it's not very important or relevant. We learn that Sonic.exe is also called X. Cool story, bro. Why do I need to know this? It also tells us that there's a cult formed around him. Why do I care? Actually, the existence of this cult raises even more questions. First off, the original title that this cult has given himself is the Cult of X. You know, I really don't think that people in cults are actually aware of and acknowledge that they are in a cult. Also, even though there is a freaking religion set up around this monster, the actual identity of the person who made the disc is specifically stated in the pasta to be unknown. Was there really any point to that at all? But this story goes well beyond adding jack to the mythos the original story set up. It is so incompetently put together that it actually takes away from the mythology by retroactively creating plot holes in the original story. There is one paragraph referencing the original that is one of the most baffling sets of words ever written in the history of the human language. Okay, first off, I think the word right there is supposed to be deceased, not diseased. Next, Tom hanged himself? When did that happen? Okay, apparently he hanged himself so that he would die instead of getting tortured by Sonic.exe forever. This would imply that he wrote the original story to warn other people to not play the game. Well, there are two things wrong with this. One, he obviously failed, since it's been stated that the murders definitely continue after Tom's demise, and two, that was not stated at any point in the original story. Wait, what? He hanged himself before he got the package? Author, read over your work! Please, it's not hard! Also, what is this bull crap here? Tom never indicated that he thought that Kyle's suffering was his fault. This story is just pulling stuff out of Hammerspace for the sake of upping the word count. And lastly, it was stated earlier that the press was making it clear the Sonic.exe game was a common factor in all of the murders. I know that some people are out of the loop when it comes to current events, but this is a serial killer who has killed over 24 people in Tom's area over a period of nearly a year. How do you miss that? And if he knew anything at all about the events happening around him, why would he trust anything called Sonic.exe? Is Tom really that stupid? Oh, what am I saying? Of course he is. Next point. This creepypasta is unbelievably derivative. I'm not saying that the original pasta wasn't a ripoff of Ben's Round, but at least it wasn't that overt or explicit, and it was only ripping off one thing. Sonic.exe Round 2 scoffs at that number. It is derivative of many things. Take some American media, for example. It is like A Nightmare on Elm Street, with a wisecracking supernatural entity who invades the thoughts and dreams of those who encounter it. It's a lot like Ben Drown again, with a malevolent entity possessing a video game and psychologically torturing all who play it. It even rips off Paranormal Activity, with the narrator's last moments being recorded on audio, and that audio is found by somebody else later. By the way, this audio is described in text. The people behind Ben Drown made custom video game footage of Majora's Mask, and JC the Hyena can't even be bothered to record 2 minutes of audio. This pasta is also derivative of a lot of Japanese media. It's a lot like Ring, with a piece of electronic software going from person to person, killing all who own it. It's like Pulse, where the souls of the victims get sucked through a computer to another place to be tortured for all of eternity. It is also a lot like Death Note, where a cult forms around a supernatural serial killer who wants to create a utopia where he rules. A cult and serial killer that are both investigated by the main character. And I don't even follow Japanese media that closely. This piece of work probably rips off 10 or 20 other Japanese things that I don't know about. I'm not going to act like good things can't be derivative of other things, but good artists use their inspirations in new, original ways, and use those inspirations to carve out their own identity and create their own style. That is not the case with Sonic.exe Round 2. It is creatively bankrupt, and it doesn't care who knows it. You know what? This whole story just baffles me in general. There are little things sprinkled around that just make me facepalm. For example, the narrator, Derek Green, the homicide detective, learns more about Sonic.exe and the Cult of X via one of the cult members. He says that Sonic.exe has 7 guardians representing 7 emotions: sorrow, rage, hatred, happiness, fear, desire, and prayer, which in this universe is an emotion somehow. Yes, and these 7 guardians can only be defeated by 6 heroes representing the 6 elements: Vargas, Selena, Lance, Ez, Atro, and Magres. Huge points if you got that reference, but seriously, where did this come from? It does not at all fit in with the tone of the rest of the story, and these 7 guardians are never mentioned again. This paragraph looks like it came from a different story entirely. There's also this truly enigmatic part where Derek says that according to the coroner report, the victims are not dead at all. They're apparently in some sort of coma, their hearts and lungs are working fine, but they have no consciousness. That's all well and good, but there are 2 things that make this a plot hole. Firstly, Derek and his sister Chelsea, who are both homicide detectives, stay on this case, and secondly, throughout the rest of the story, words like murder, killings, death, and killer are all still used. Are they dead or not? Don't you think this might be a little needlessly complicated? Maybe what the author was going for was that there was no sign of bodily damage or harm other than the fact that they're dead. This story would have been a lot less confusing if it was clear if Sonic.exe attacking you had the effect of Avada Kedavra or the Dementor's Kiss. Okay, maybe add Harry Potter to the list. Plus, the whole plushie thing is brought up again. It's just as stupid here as it was in the first one. One really, really stupid thing is that all the characters seem to be Sonic fans and play Sonic the Hedgehog games. I guess this fits in with the first story, where Tom is a Sonic the Hedgehog fan, much like everybody else. No, I'm sorry, I said that wrong. Tom is a Sonic the Hedgehog fan, much like everybody else. These stories are so full of crap. Just because the author is a Sonic fan doesn't mean that everybody else on the planet is also a Sonic fan. That would be like me just assuming that absolutely everybody listening got the 6 Heroes reference I just made. I have never seen stories that are so out of touch with reality. Also, adding to the list of things that are wrong, this story is way too long. It's about 6,000 words long, but it feels like at least 10,000. Length is not necessarily a deal breaker. On a Hill, one of my favorite creepypastas ever, is, in its entirety, over 17,000 words long. But On a Hill had good enough writing and an interesting enough premise to keep me invested. I don't think you need me to tell you that is not the case here at all. The repetition of the original story is present here in this one. Actually, it's a lot worse. The short sequence of events happens dozens of times instead of 3, and the repetition of words becomes so bad that you sound like a broken record if you read some of these sentences out loud. His red marks were oozing red as if he were bleeding, and his eyes were bloodshot to the point that they were red, bleeding, and pulsating. No edits needed? None at all? Really? There are also grammar and spelling mistakes en masse. Did the killer found out? Did the killer find out? This isn't what I meant when I talked about fixing tense swaps. Several news about people. What? Both me and Chelsea have a theory to this. Me have a theory to this too. The grammar is atrocious. She is just as determined to learning more about this case. Was this in another language and just Google translated 20 times? It seems to connect. Why do I even care anymore? Was Chelsea found? I don't know. There are also 3 separate, different superfluous uses of the word practically, which leads me to believe that the narrator really does not know what the word practically actually means. I do realize that the way I'm talking about this makes it sound like this really was a troll after all, but even if that is true, it still fails. It isn't really funny, it's mostly just annoying and frustrating. This story is just a failure no matter how you look at it. Okay, I'm just ranting now, so let's just wrap this up. Is Sonic.exe Round 2 really that bad? Yes! Absolutely! It's boring, barely coherent, stupid beyond belief, and is in no way worth reading. Also, for such a meandering story, it also seems very rushed, with none of the descriptions or plot threads given any time to develop. And you know what is the very worst thing about it? The fact that this conflict is never truly resolved implies that, heaven forbid, there might be another sequel. That is horrifying! You know, it's really strange how, while the ideas of Ben Drowned and Sonic.exe on paper had about the same potential, Ben Drowned turned out really good, where Sonic.exe turned out awful. This is bar none the worst thing I have ever had to talk about for this show, and that is saying something. We're at what episode? 41, 42, 43. Oh my gosh. This is episode 49. The 50th episode is next. Wow, oh, okay. Screw this creepypasta. Happy Halloween. Now, if you excuse me, I'm gonna go eat candy until I go into a coma. See you next time for the 50th episode of The Show with No Name.